You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius, what if I told you that most of the battles draining your energy right now were never meant to be fought at all? The arguments you replay in your head, the disrespect you tolerate, the need to prove your worth, none of them are making you stronger. They're making you smaller. Every time you chase validation, every time you explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you, you give away something priceless: your peace. We're taught that winning means pushing harder, responding louder, staying in the fight at all costs. But the Stoics understood something most people never do. True power isn't found in reaction. It's found in restraint, in knowing when to step back, in knowing when silence speaks louder than words, knowing when walking away isn't weakness, but dominance. This video will show you 10 moments where walking away isn't quitting, it's winning. Moments where detachment becomes strength and self-respect becomes non-negotiable. Watch this till the very end, because the final lesson might completely change how you handle conflict, relationships, and your own self-worth. Miss it, and you'll keep fighting battles that were never yours to win. Number 1. Walking away when disrespected. Walking away when you're disrespected isn't weakness dressed up as maturity. It's strength that no longer needs to prove itself. You feel the pull to explain, to correct, to push back, to win the moment. That pull is familiar. It's almost automatic. Someone crosses a line and your nervous system lights up, telling you to respond, to defend your name, to demand recognition. But this is where most people lose without realizing it. They hand their peace to someone who has already shown they don't value it. You don't need to announce your boundaries. You don't need to argue for your dignity. You don't need to stay where respect has already left the room. You can simply go. And that choice, quiet and deliberate, is the victory. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" There's a subtle power here. Not reacting, not chasing approval, not letting another person's lack of restraint dictate your behavior. When you walk away from disrespect, you're not avoiding conflict. You're refusing to participate in something beneath you. You're saying without words that your self-respect isn't up for negotiation. That silence, that absence, speaks louder than any clever comeback ever could. Disrespect thrives on engagement. It feeds on reaction. The moment you start explaining yourself to someone who has already dismissed you, you've shifted the balance. You're now performing. You're now seeking validation from a source that has none to give. Walking away breaks that pattern instantly. It cuts the supply. It says, "I decide where my energy goes." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Think about that. No opinion, no response, no argument. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world, especially not those who treat it carelessly. Choosing not to engage is not passive. It's precise. It's intentional. It's you taking control of what you allow to shape your state of mind. There's also a deeper shift that happens when you make this a habit. You stop needing people to behave well for you to feel stable. You stop outsourcing your calm. Instead of asking, "Why would they say that?" you start asking, "Why would I stay?" That question changes everything. Disrespect becomes a signal, not a wound. Information, not an insult. It tells you where not to invest. And once you see it that way, walking away feels less like loss and more like clarity. You're not losing people. You're losing illusions. Of course, your ego will protest at first. It wants the last word. It wants justice delivered immediately, preferably with witnesses. But the ego is impatient and short-sighted. It confuses noise with power. Stoicism teaches you to zoom out, to think in terms of character, not moments. Seneca warned, "No one can insult you without your consent." That doesn't mean words don't sting. It means their impact depends on whether you take them inside and make them part of your identity. Walking away is how you withdraw consent. You're saying, "This stops here. This doesn't get to live rent-free in my head." When you choose distance over debate, something unexpected happens. You regain time, mental space, focus. The energy you would have spent replaying conversations or crafting responses returns to you, and with that energy you build something better, a stronger sense of self, clearer standards, a quieter confidence. You begin to trust yourself more because you're proving again and again that you'll protect your peace even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. This isn't about suppressing emotion or pretending you don't feel anything. You do feel it. You notice the irritation, the disappointment, the flash of anger, but you don't let it steer the wheel. You let it pass like weather. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. That choice is exercised in moments of disrespect, not by forcing yourself to feel nothing but by deciding what deserves your response. Most things don't. To turn this into a lived practice, start with a simple internal rule. If respect is missing, presence is optional. Repeat that to yourself until it sticks. The next time you sense a boundary being crossed, pause before reacting. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself, will engaging here make me stronger or smaller? Answer honestly. Then act accordingly. Often the strongest move is to disengage without drama. No speeches, no explanations, just a calm withdrawal. Another exercise is to rehearse silence. Literally. In your mind, imagine moments where you'd normally respond. Picture yourself choosing stillness instead. Feel the discomfort of not reacting and let it be there. This trains you to tolerate the urge without obeying it. Over time, that urge weakens. You become less reactive, more deliberate. You stop being pulled into situations that don't deserve you. You can also journal, but not to vent. Write one sentence. What standard was violated? Then another. What does walking away protect in me? Keep it short. Keep it clear. This reframes the experience from personal attack to personal alignment. You're not avoiding confrontation. You're aligning your actions with your values. Walking away when disrespected reshapes how others experience you too, though that's never the main goal. People sense when access to you is conditional on mutual respect. Your calm absence carries weight. It signals that you're not easily provoked, not easily controlled. But even if no one notices, even if nothing changes externally, something crucial has shifted internally. You've chosen yourself. You've reinforced the idea that your worth isn't something others get to debate. This is why walking away is the ultimate victory. There's no scoreboard, no applause, just a quiet, grounded knowing that you didn't betray yourself for the sake of a moment. You didn't trade your dignity for temporary relief. You stayed aligned, and that alignment compounds. Day by day, choice by choice, you become someone who doesn't need to demand respect because you already live in a way that earns it from yourself first. So take the step. The next time disrespect shows up, don't lean in, lean away. Trust that what you protect grows stronger. Trust that peace is not something you beg for, it's something you choose. And remember the Stoic truth that has outlived empires. Your power begins the moment you stop giving it to what diminishes you. Number 2, leaving arguments that go nowhere. There's a quiet strength in recognizing when a conversation has stopped being a conversation and turned into a loop. You feel it in your body first. The tightening in your chest. The sense that no matter what you say, it will be twisted, dismissed, or used as fuel for another pointless round. This is the moment most people push harder. You're told to stand your ground, to win the argument, to get the last word. But here's the truth you're rarely taught. Staying in an argument that goes nowhere is not strength. It's surrender. Walking away is often the clearest declaration of self-respect you can make. When an argument has no destination, it's not about understanding anymore. It's about control, ego, or the need to be right at all costs. And every second you stay, you donate your attention, your energy, and your emotional balance to something that gives nothing back. The Stoics warned about this long ago. Epictetus said that if you want to improve, you must be content to be thought foolish and stupid by others. Walking away can look like weakness to people who thrive on conflict, but in reality, it's discipline. It's choosing peace over noise. You're not avoiding truth. You're refusing to wrestle with chaos. You don't need to convince everyone. Read that again. You don't need to convince everyone. The urge to keep arguing usually comes from a deeper place. The fear of being misunderstood, disrespected, or diminished. But no amount of explaining will earn respect from someone who isn't listening. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that other people's opinions are not under your control. When you argue endlessly, you act as if they are. Walking away is the moment you reclaim what belongs to you: your time, your clarity, your inner balance. Think about how much mental space a useless argument occupies. Even after it ends, it lingers. You replay lines in your head. You imagine better responses. You feel drained without knowing why. That's the hidden cost. Seneca wrote that life is long if you know how to use it, but most people squander it. Arguments that go nowhere are one of the fastest ways to waste a day, then a week, then a habit of emotional exhaustion. Walking away isn't just about ending a conversation. It's about ending a pattern. This is where the real victory lives. Not in proving a point, but in refusing to be pulled into a cycle that weakens you. You don't announce it. You don't storm off. You simply disengage, calmly, quietly. You stop feeding the fire, and without fuel, it dies. People who argue endlessly expect resistance. They expect you to react. When you don't, the dynamic collapses. Not because you dominated it, but because you stepped outside it. There's a deeper layer here, and it's uncomfortable to admit. Sometimes you stay in these arguments because part of you enjoys the tension, the stimulation, the feeling of being involved. Walking away forces you to sit with silence, with unresolved feelings, with the discomfort of not being validated. This is why it's powerful. The Stoics trained themselves to tolerate discomfort on purpose, not to punish themselves, but to strengthen their freedom. When you leave an argument that goes nowhere, you're practicing that same inner training. You're teaching yourself that you don't need external agreement to be steady. Now, let's turn this into something practical, because insight without action fades quickly. Start by learning to recognize the signal. The moment an argument starts repeating itself, pause. Literally pause. Take one slow breath before responding. That breath is your gap. In that gap, ask yourself one question: is this leading anywhere? Not can I win? Not am I right? Just is this useful? If the answer is no, that's your cue. Next, practice neutral exits. You don't need dramatic statements. Simple phrases work because they don't invite escalation. Say less. Fewer words mean fewer hooks. Then stop engaging. This is not silent treatment. It's intentional disengagement. There's a difference. One is punishment, the other is self-command. Another exercise: set a personal rule. Decide in advance that you will not repeat yourself more than once in a disagreement. The first time is communication. The second time is clarification. After that, it's usually a power struggle. When you hit that limit, you step back. This rule protects you from being dragged into endless loops without you having to decide in the heat of the moment. You can also train your mind afterward. When you walk away, your ego may itch. You'll want to replay the argument. Don't fight that urge aggressively. Observe it. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to see thoughts as just thoughts, not commands. When your mind tries to pull you back into the argument, gently redirect it. Focus on your breath, on movement, on something concrete. You're not suppressing the thought. You're declining the invitation. Over time, something shifts. You become less reactive. You start to feel a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. Arguments lose their grip on you because you no longer see them as arenas for validation. You see them as choices, and you don't choose what drains you. This habit changes how people experience you, not because you're intimidating, but because you're grounded. Calm energy is unsettling to those who rely on conflict. They sense they can't pull you into the mud, and even if no one else ever notices, you will. You'll feel lighter, clearer, more in control of your inner world. The ultimate victory isn't silence for its own sake. It's sovereignty. It's knowing when engagement serves your values and when it doesn't. The Stoics believed that freedom begins where compulsion ends. When you stop feeling compelled to respond to every provocation, you step into that freedom. So the next time an argument starts spinning in circles, remember this. You don't owe your energy to confusion. You don't owe your peace to noise. You don't owe your time to conversations that refuse to move forward. Walking away is not giving up. It's choosing yourself. And that choice, repeated consistently, builds a strength that no argument can touch. Number 3, choosing silence over reacting emotionally. Choosing silence over reacting emotionally is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. It doesn't look impressive at first. It doesn't feel satisfying in the moment. There's no applause for it. In fact, it can feel like you're losing. Your chest tightens. Your mind races with the perfect words you could say. Your ego begs for release. And yet this is exactly where the victory lives. Not in the response, not in the comeback, but in the restraint. When you choose silence, you're not avoiding power, you're reclaiming it. You've been taught, subtly and loudly, that expression equals strength. That if you don't react, you're weak. That if you don't defend yourself immediately, you've somehow accepted defeat. But that idea collapses the moment you realize how easily emotions can be hijacked. Anger, defensiveness, the need to prove yourself. These are levers other people can pull whenever they want a reaction from you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius warned that your mind becomes a slave the moment it reacts without choice. Epictetus went even further, reminding you that it's not events that disturb you but your judgments about them. Silence is what interrupts that chain. Silence is the pause where judgment dissolves. When you react emotionally, you hand control to whatever provoked you. You speak words you didn't choose. You act in ways that don't reflect who you want to be. You leak energy. Silence, on the other hand, seals that energy inside you. It forces you to stay present with the sensation without letting it turn into action. That's uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid it. But discomfort is the toll you pay to become ungovernable. When you don't react, you deny others the reward they're unconsciously seeking, your attention, your validation, your emotional labor. And without that reward, their influence collapses. There's also something quietly intimidating about silence. Not the cold, performative kind, but the grounded kind. The kind that says, "I'm not moved." Words are often used to cover insecurity. Silence reveals certainty. Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Silence is delay perfected. It stretches time just enough for your nervous system to settle and your reason to step back in. In that space, clarity returns. You begin to see what actually matters and what doesn't deserve even a second of your breath. This isn't about suppression. That's an important distinction. Suppression is stuffing emotions down and pretending they don't exist. Silence is acknowledgement without obedience. You feel everything, but you don't let feeling dictate behavior. You let the wave pass without becoming the wave. Over time, this changes you. You become someone who isn't easily baited. Someone whose reactions are chosen, not triggered. Someone who can walk away internally long before walking away physically. To make this a habit, you need practice, not theory. Start with a simple rule: no immediate responses when emotions spike. Not 5 seconds, not 10 minutes, sometimes hours. Let silence be your default reaction until calm returns. During that pause, shift your attention inward. Ask yourself one question and only one: what part of me wants to react right now? Not why, not how to respond, just notice the part. Ego, fear, pride, the need to be seen. Naming it weakens it. Another exercise is mental rehearsal. Before situations even arise, visualize yourself choosing silence. See the moment clearly. Feel the urge to speak. Then imagine yourself breathing instead, relaxing your jaw, letting the moment pass. The mind learns through repetition, even imagined repetition. When the real moment arrives, it won't feel foreign, it will feel familiar. You can also train silence physically. Practice not filling gaps, not explaining yourself unnecessarily, not defending every choice. Let there be space after someone speaks. That space is where authority grows. The Stoics believed that self-command was the highest form of command. Every time you choose silence, you reinforce that command within yourself. There will be moments when silence feels like you're swallowing fire. That's okay. Fire refines. It doesn't destroy unless you panic. Remind yourself, you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to clarify yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to win every exchange to win your life. Walking away emotionally by staying silent is often the most decisive move available. Over time, something subtle happens. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must respond, explain, or react. You become someone who observes first, chooses second, acts last. That order changes everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the option of having no opinion. Silence is that option in action. It's not passive. It's disciplined. It's deliberate. It's strong. So the next time emotion surges and your tongue is ready to sprint ahead of your values, pause, breathe. Let silence carry you through the moment. Walk away internally. That's the victory most people never experience because they're too busy reacting to notice it. Number 4, detaching from people who drain your energy. Detaching from people who drain your energy is one of the quietest forms of strength you'll ever practice. It doesn't look dramatic. There's no speech, no slammed doors, no grand finale, and that's exactly why it works. When you walk away without needing to explain yourself, you stop feeding a dynamic that survives on your attention. You stop negotiating your peace. You stop leaking emotional fuel into situations that never intended to give anything back. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What drains you isn't always what's happening. It's how much of yourself you keep handing over. Every time you over-engage, over-explain, over-react, you're teaching others that your energy is available on demand. Detachment changes that lesson. It tells the world quietly but firmly that access to you is earned. And once you internalize that, walking away stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like relief. Here's the uncomfortable truth you already know but may not want to admit. Some people are not confused, wounded, or unaware. They are simply misaligned with who you're becoming. And staying connected to them out of habit, guilt, or nostalgia slowly pulls you backward. Seneca warned, associate with people who are likely to improve you. That isn't cruelty. That's self-respect. Detachment isn't about punishing anyone. It's about refusing to punish yourself. When you keep engaging with energy drainers, your nervous system never gets to rest. Your thoughts loop. Your mood dips. Your focus fractures. You tell yourself you're being patient, understanding, loyal. But deep down, you feel the cost. Walking away is the moment you stop arguing with your own body. You don't need closure. You don't need agreement. You don't even need to be understood. Epictetus reminded us that we should concern ourselves only with what's within our control. Other people's emotional chaos is not on that list. Your boundaries are. What makes detachment so powerful is that it removes leverage. Energy-draining people thrive on reaction. They pull you into explanations, defenses, emotional labor, endless mental rehearsals. The moment you stop supplying that, the dynamic collapses. Not because you won, but because the game no longer exists. Silence, distance, and non-participation do more than arguments ever could. And this is where most people hesitate. They confuse detachment with coldness. It's not. Detachment is clarity without cruelty. You can wish someone well and still choose distance. You can feel compassion and still say no with your actions. The Stoics never taught emotional suppression, they taught emotional discipline. There's a difference. One numbs you, the other frees you. When you detach, you reclaim mental space. That space becomes strength. That strength becomes direction. And direction changes everything. To make this real, you need habits, not just insight. Start with a simple daily exercise. Pause before responding, not forever, just long enough to ask, does this interaction give or take energy from me? If the answer is consistently take, shorten the interaction. Fewer words, less explanation, more neutrality. Another practice is energy budgeting. At the start of your day, decide how much emotional energy you're willing to spend on others. When it's gone, it's gone. No guilt. No justification. Write this sentence somewhere you'll see it. I am not required to attend every emotional invitation. That single line can save you years. A third exercise is mental rehearsal. Imagine walking away calmly. No anger, no apology, just peace. The mind trains before the body follows. Marcus Aurelius advised rehearsing adversity in advance so it loses its sting. Do the same with detachment. Practice the feeling of release. Finally, build a ritual of return. After any draining interaction, do something grounding: silence, movement, breath, stillness. Teach your nervous system that peace is your default, not something you earn by enduring discomfort. Walking away from energy-draining people is the ultimate victory because nothing is taken from you in the process. You don't harden. You don't become bitter. You don't lose your humanity. You simply stop bleeding where you were never meant to stay open. And over time, something shifts. You become harder to manipulate, not because you're guarded, but because you're grounded. You stop chasing understanding from those who benefit from your confusion. You stop explaining your worth to those who profit from your doubt. Seneca said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Detachment is self-mastery in action. It's the decision to protect your inner order. And once you taste that calm, you'll realize this wasn't walking away at all. It was coming back to yourself. Number 5, refusing to chase validation. When you refuse to chase validation, something quiet but decisive happens inside you. You stop running toward mirrors held by other people. You stop asking the world to confirm that you matter. And in that moment, without drama or announcement, you take your power back. You don't feel the urge to prove, explain, or perform. You feel steadier, more rooted. Validation is a hungry thing. The more you feed it, the louder it demands. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "I do my duty, other things trouble me not." That sentence isn't cold or detached, it's liberating. It's a reminder that your worth isn't a public vote, it's an internal decision. When you walk away from the chase, you're not giving up. You're graduating from a game that never had a finish line. You've been conditioned to believe that approval is oxygen, that if you're not being noticed, praised, or affirmed, something is wrong with you. So you check, you adjust. You wait for reactions, and without realizing it, your mood becomes a weather vane spinning with every external breeze. Refusing to chase validation means choosing stillness over spin. It means deciding that your inner compass matters more than applause. Epictetus put it plainly, "If you want to be invincible, make no treaty with praise." That's not bitterness. That's strategy. Praise is pleasant, but dependence on it is costly. The cost is your focus, your peace, your direction. When you stop chasing it, you reclaim those things instantly. Here's the shift you need to make, and it's subtle. You don't stop caring about doing things well. You stop caring about being seen doing them. There's a massive difference. One sharpens you, the other drains you. When you refuse to chase validation, your actions become cleaner, quieter, stronger. You act because it aligns with who you're becoming, not because you want a reaction. And paradoxically, this is when you become harder to ignore. Not because you're trying, but because grounded people have weight. They don't beg for attention. They command respect by not needing it. Think about how much energy gets wasted trying to be understood, liked, approved of. That energy could be redirected into discipline, into craft, into growth. Seneca wrote, "He who depends on himself has the firmest foundation." Read that again. Depending on yourself doesn't mean isolating. It means you don't outsource your self-worth. You don't hand it over and hope it comes back intact. You keep it, you guard it. And from that place you move through the world with a different posture, less tense, less reactive, more deliberate. Refusing to chase validation also changes how you handle silence. Silence stops feeling like rejection. It starts feeling like space. Space to think, space to refine, space to breathe. When no one is clapping, you don't panic, you keep going. You remember that most meaningful progress happens away from the spotlight anyway. The Stoics trained themselves to be content with their own approval because they knew crowds are fickle. Today's praise can turn into tomorrow's indifference. If your motivation is borrowed, it can be revoked. So you build a motivation that's self-sustaining. This is where walking away becomes the ultimate victory. You walk away from over-explaining. You walk away from checking whether you're enough today. You walk away from shaping yourself into something more palatable, and you don't announce it, you just stop. That quiet refusal is powerful. It sends a signal to yourself first that you trust your own judgment, that you are no longer auditioning for permission to be who you are. Now this isn't automatic. You train it. Just like the Stoics trained their minds. Start with a simple daily practice. Before you begin your day, decide one action you will take purely because it aligns with your values, not because it will be seen or praised. Do it privately. Let it be enough. Another exercise, notice the moment you feel the urge to check for approval internally or externally. Don't judge it, just pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, what would I do right now if no one noticed? Then do that. This isn't denial, it's recalibration. You can also practice voluntary indifference, a classic Stoic technique. For short periods, deliberately remove yourself from feedback loops. No checking, no measuring reactions, no mental scorekeeping. Use that time to strengthen your internal standards. Write them down if you need to. Not goals, standards, how you act, how you speak to yourself, how you respond under pressure. Standards don't require applause, they require commitment. There will be discomfort at first. That's normal. Validation withdrawal feels strange because you've been leaning on it for balance. But stay with it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Refusing to chase validation is exactly that realization in action. You stop trying to control how you're perceived and start mastering how you show up. One is fragile, the other is unshakable. As you practice this, you'll notice something unexpected. Your self-respect grows, and with it, your patience. You don't rush to correct misunderstandings. You don't scramble to be liked. You let your actions speak over time. That patience is a form of confidence. It says, I don't need immediate recognition to keep going. That mindset is rare, and rarity carries power. So take this with you. Every time you refuse to chase validation, you choose sovereignty over approval. You choose depth over noise. You choose direction over distraction. Walking away from the chase isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's the moment you stop negotiating your worth and start investing in your character. And that, quietly and consistently, is the ultimate victory. Number 6, exiting situations you can't control. There comes a quiet moment in your life when you finally realize that some situations were never meant to be fixed. They were meant to be left, not fought, not negotiated, not endured in silence. Left. And this realization doesn't arrive with noise or drama. It arrives like a deep exhale you didn't know you were holding. You've been trying to control outcomes, reactions, moods, opinions, dynamics, things that were never yours to command. And the instant you stop gripping them, something strange happens. Your chest feels lighter. Your thoughts slow down. Your power returns. This is what it means to walk away from what you can't control, not as a retreat, but as a declaration. As Epictetus said, some things are up to us and some things are not. The mistake isn't encountering chaos. The mistake is believing your peace should depend on it. You don't lose when you exit situations beyond your control. You win in a way that doesn't require applause. Control is seductive. It whispers that if you try harder, explain better, sacrifice more, things will bend your way. But you already know the truth. The more you try to dominate the uncontrollable, the smaller you feel. Your energy leaks. Your attention fractures. You start living reactively, always adjusting yourself to forces that don't care how much you give. Walking away interrupts that cycle. It's you saying, I refuse to bleed for things that don't listen. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Exiting is not indifference, It's alignment. It's choosing to place your focus where your effort actually matters. You don't need closure to walk away. You don't need permission. You don't even need certainty. The idea that you must understand everything before leaving is another trap of control. Sometimes clarity comes after distance, not before. When you stay in situations you can't control, your nervous system stays on high alert. You're always bracing, always preparing for the next shift, always monitoring signals. That constant vigilance drains you. Leaving, on the other hand, retrains your mind. It teaches you that safety and self-respect come from boundaries, not from winning every invisible battle. Seneca warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins when you stop volunteering for emotional imprisonment. Here's the uncomfortable part. Walking away often feels wrong at first. Not because it is wrong, but because you're unlearning old conditioning. You may feel guilt, doubt, or a strange emptiness. That's normal. You're withdrawing from a pattern that once defined you. The mind panics when familiar suffering disappears. It asks, "Shouldn't I be doing something?" But stillness is not neglect. Silence is not weakness. This is where discipline replaces impulse. Instead of rushing back in to regain a sense of control, you sit with the discomfort. You let it pass. You remind yourself that peace does not need justification. If you want to practice this skill deliberately, start small. The exercise is simple but not easy. When you feel the urge to fix, manage, or chase an outcome you can't influence, pause. Don't act immediately. Breathe once deeply. Then ask yourself one question. Is this within my control, or am I borrowing stress from the future? Write the answer down if you need to. Not to analyze it endlessly, but to see it clearly. Each time you choose non-engagement, you strengthen a new reflex. Over time, your mind learns that withdrawal can be an act of self-trust, not avoidance. Another practice is mental subtraction. At the end of the day, reflect not on what you did, but on what you didn't engage with. What arguments did you refuse? What emotional hooks did you step over? What situations did you leave untouched? This trains you to measure progress by restraint, not reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Walking away is often the cleanest form of that wisdom. You're not trying to prove anything. You're choosing not to be shaped by chaos. There is also a deeper transformation happening beneath the surface. When you stop trying to control uncontrollable situations, you reclaim authorship over your inner world. Your attention stops scattering. Your decisions become cleaner. You move slower but with more intention. You begin to value your energy as a finite resource. This is not detachment as numbness. It's detachment as clarity. You still care, but you care selectively. You stop feeding what drains you and start investing in what strengthens you. That shift alone changes the way you walk into every room, every decision, every silence. You might worry that walking away means giving up, but giving up is passive. Walking away is deliberate. Giving up collapses you inward. Walking away straightens your spine. It tells your nervous system, "I will not abandon myself to manage what I cannot govern." Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of what you're trying to control exists only as anticipated pain. By stepping back, you cut the fuel supply to those imagined disasters. You don't need to predict every outcome to be at peace with your choice. Make this your final exercise. Sit quietly and imagine two paths. On one path, you continue trying to control the uncontrollable. Notice how your body feels there. Tight, restless, heavy. On the other path, you step away without explanation, without drama, just distance. Notice the space that opens up, the silence, the steadiness. Choose that feeling, not once but repeatedly, choice by choice, day by day. Walking away is not the absence of strength. It's strength refined. It's the discipline to stop arguing with reality. And when you master that, you stop leaking power into places that were never meant to hold it. You don't need to dominate every situation to win. Sometimes the ultimate victory is simply knowing when to leave and doing it without looking back. Number 7, letting go when effort isn't reciprocated. There comes a quiet moment when you realize you've been pouring energy into something that isn't pouring anything back. No explosion, no dramatic reveal, just a subtle heaviness that settles in your chest. And this is where the real test begins, not whether you can try harder, but whether you can stop. Letting go when effort isn't reciprocated feels counterintuitive at first. You've been taught to persist, to prove, to chase closure, to see it through. But Stoic wisdom whispers a different truth. Not everything deserves your endurance. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Walking away isn't weakness. It's you reclaiming that power. You don't need loud rejection to justify leaving. You don't need betrayal, cruelty, or collapse. Sometimes the absence of effort is the answer. When your care is met with indifference, your presence with silence, your consistency with half steps, the Stoic path isn't to beg the world to change. It's to adjust where you place your energy. Epictetus was blunt about this. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Translation: you might look unreasonable to others when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to earn what should be freely given. And that's fine. Your peace doesn't require their approval. Letting go hurts less than clinging, but only after you do it. Before that, it feels like you're giving up something important. In reality, you're giving up resistance. You're releasing yourself from the exhausting role of compensating for someone else's lack of effort. The Stoics didn't teach detachment because they were cold. They taught it because they understood how draining misplaced attachment can be. Seneca warned, "How many have laid waste to your life when you weren't aware of what you were losing?" Every time you overextend where there is no return, something in you erodes, quietly, steadily. Walking away stops the leak. This is where victory hides, not in being chosen, not in being understood, but in choosing yourself without needing a dramatic reason. When you let go, you break an invisible contract that says your worth is proven by how much you tolerate. You stop negotiating with your own boundaries. You stop hoping effort will suddenly be mirrored if you just explain yourself one more time, show up one more time, wait a little longer. You recognize that reciprocity isn't something you argue into existence. It either is or it is. You don't need to harden your heart to do this. You just need clarity. The Stoics practiced ataraxia, inner calm, not by controlling others but by releasing expectations of them. When you let go of unreciprocated effort, you aren't becoming indifferent. You're becoming precise. You're deciding where your attention belongs. And attention, as Marcus Aurelius reminds you again and again, is life itself. Where you place it determines the quality of your days. There's also a deep confidence that emerges when you stop over-investing. You begin to trust that what is aligned with you will not require self-betrayal. You stop fearing loss so intensely because you've seen what it costs to hold on too tightly. Walking away teaches you that absence doesn't destroy you. It clarifies you. It strips away the noise and leaves you with something solid, self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic not to others but to yourself. That's the kind that lasts. Now, this isn't about anger or punishment. Stoicism never encourages withdrawal as revenge. It encourages withdrawal as wisdom. You leave quietly, cleanly, without needing to be right. You don't announce your departure to win an argument. You step back because your time is finite, your energy is valuable, and your inner state matters. Seneca put it simply, life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Letting go anchors you back in the present, right here, where your next choice actually exists. To make this real, you need habits, not just insight. Start with a daily audit. Ask yourself honestly where you are giving more than you receive emotionally. Don't judge it, just notice it. Awareness alone begins to loosen the grip. Then practice voluntary restraint. For 1 week, reduce your effort by half in areas where it isn't matched, not as a test, as an experiment in self-observation. Notice how your body feels. Notice the space that opens up. That space is information. Another exercise is negative visualization, straight from Stoic practice. Briefly imagine fully letting go, no explanations, no last attempts. Sit with that image. Feel the discomfort, then watch it pass. This trains your nervous system to understand that you can survive detachment. That fear doesn't equal danger. Over time, your impulse to chase weakens. Finally, redirect. Every ounce of effort you withdraw must be placed somewhere intentional: your craft, your health, your discipline, your inner life. Walking away without redirection creates emptiness. Walking away with purpose creates momentum. This is how letting go becomes victory instead of loss. You're not here to beg for balance. You're here to embody it. When effort isn't reciprocated, walking away isn't the end of the story. It's the moment you stop leaking energy and start standing upright again. Quiet, grounded, unavailable for anything that requires you to abandon yourself. And that, whether anyone notices or not, is the ultimate win. Number 8, stepping back from ego battles. When you step back from ego battles, something quiet but powerful happens inside you. You stop reacting on autopilot. You stop treating every challenge as a referendum on your worth. You stop confusing noise with meaning. Ego wants motion. It wants friction, applause, resistance. It feeds on comparison and survives on the idea that you must always prove something. But you're not here to prove. You're here to build. And building requires clarity, not combat. Walking away from ego battles is not retreat, it's precision. It's choosing where your attention goes and understanding that attention is the most expensive currency you own. Most ego battles don't announce themselves as such. They disguise themselves as respect, as being right, as not letting things slide. Ego whispers that if you don't engage, you lose. That silence equals weakness. That stepping back makes you smaller. But the Stoics saw this illusion clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Ego promises satisfaction but delivers exhaustion. It asks for your energy up front and pays you back with agitation. You walk away and suddenly the transaction stops. You keep your energy, you keep your time, you keep your inner order intact. Think about how often ego tries to drag you into unnecessary friction. A comment that needs a response, a slight that demands correction, a challenge that exists only to provoke. Ego wants you to tense up, to harden, to lean forward, but strength often leans back. Strength pauses. Strength asks, "Is this worth my life force?" Epictetus put it plainly. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." That's not sarcasm. That's freedom. That's refusing to let your sense of self be negotiated by outside voices. Stepping back from ego battles trains you to separate identity from reaction. You begin to notice the space between a stimulus and your response. In that space, you get to choose, and choice is power. You realize that not every invitation deserves your attendance. Not every challenge deserves your strength. Not every provocation deserves your breath. When you stop defending a fragile ego, you start standing on something solid. Your values, your direction, your discipline. You stop asking, "How do I look right now?" and start asking, "Where am I going?" This shift takes practice because ego is loud and habitual. It's been rewarded for years. It learned that reacting feels like control, but control that costs you peace is not control at all. Seneca warned, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Notice the nuance. Proving yourself is not about winning arguments, it's about mastering yourself. The real contest is internal. Can you remain calm when provoked? Can you stay aligned when tempted to react? Can you choose long-term dignity over short-term relief? Here's a simple practice you can adopt immediately. When you feel the urge to engage, pause and label it. Quietly say to yourself, "This is ego." Not as an insult, as information. Labeling creates distance. Distance creates choice. Then ask one grounded question. What do I gain if I walk away? Not what you lose. Ego always exaggerates loss. Focus on gain, you gain time, you gain clarity, you gain momentum. You gain emotional savings that compound over days and weeks. Another practice is the discipline of delayed response. Promise yourself you will not respond immediately to anything that triggers you. Give it a fixed window, an hour, a day. During that time, do nothing but observe your mind. You'll notice how the urgency fades, how the story loses heat, how what felt critical becomes optional. This is Stoic training in real time. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Delaying response is how you exercise that power. Walking away from ego battles also sharpens your sense of priority. You begin to see how many conflicts are distractions in disguise. They don't move you forward. They keep you busy. Ego loves busy because busy feels important, but progress is quiet. Progress doesn't argue, it advances. When you choose not to engage, you're not avoiding confrontation. You're refusing to be diverted from your path. You're saying, without words, "My focus is more valuable than this." There's also a deeper liberation here. When you stop fighting to be seen a certain way, you start seeing yourself more clearly. You no longer outsource your self-respect. You no longer wait for validation to feel grounded. Epictetus taught, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That line stings because ego hates it, but inside it is peace. You realize you don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to polish your image in every moment. Your character speaks over time, quietly, consistently. To make this habit stick, try a daily reflection exercise. At the end of the day, ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I feel the urge to defend myself? Where did I choose restraint instead? How did that choice affect my inner state? Don't judge your answers, just observe. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll see where ego hooks you most often, and awareness weakens the hook. Another exercise is intentional non-engagement. Choose one small situation each day where you consciously decide not to react, explain, or correct. Let the discomfort rise and fall. Sit with it. This is training. You're teaching your nervous system that nothing bad happens when you don't engage, that you remain intact, that your worth does not collapse in silence. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Delay becomes your shield. As you practice stepping back, something unexpected happens. Your presence gains weight. When you do speak, it's measured. When you do engage, it's deliberate. People feel the difference even if they can't name it, but more importantly, you feel it. You move through your days with less friction, less inner noise, more direction. Walking away stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like alignment. This is the ultimate victory because it's invisible. There's no scoreboard, no applause, just a steady sense that you are no longer pulled by every external force. You act instead of react. You choose instead of comply. You conserve instead of waste. Ego battles shrink when they don't get fed, and in their absence, something stronger grows: self-command. So the next time ego leans forward, you lean back. Breathe, label it, delay, choose. Not because you're afraid to engage, but because you've outgrown the need to. As Marcus Aurelius advised himself, be like the rocky promontory against which the restless waves continually break. It stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. You don't need to fight every wave. You just need to remain standing. Number 9, walking away from environments that stunt growth. Walking away from environments that stunt your growth is one of the quietest forms of victory you'll ever experience, and also one of the most misunderstood. From the outside, it can look like retreat. It can look like giving up. But internally, something very different is happening. You're choosing expansion over comfort. You're choosing your future over familiarity. And most importantly, you're choosing yourself over the slow erosion that happens when you stay too long in places that no longer nourish who you're becoming. You can feel it when an environment has stopped serving you, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in subtle resistance. Your energy feels dulled. Your curiosity shrinks. Your standards quietly lower to match the room you're in. You start editing your thoughts, muting your ambition, postponing your potential. Nothing is wrong enough to force you out, yet nothing is right enough to let you grow. This is the danger zone. This is where years disappear. The Stoics warned about this long before modern language gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But it also becomes shaped by its surroundings. You cannot steep yourself in stagnation and expect momentum. Walking away here is not impulsive, it's deliberate. It's you recognizing that growth requires friction, challenge, and space. Some environments reward repetition, not evolution. They prefer you predictable, agreeable, and small enough not to disrupt the existing order. Over time, you adapt. You stop stretching. You stop questioning. You stop demanding more of yourself. And that's when staying becomes more costly than leaving. Seneca put it plainly, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Staying where you cannot grow is one of the most refined ways time gets wasted. You don't need permission to leave an environment that limits you. You don't need a dramatic justification. Growth does not require consensus. It requires honesty. The honesty to admit that what once fit you no longer does. The courage to accept that comfort can be more dangerous than discomfort. Walking away is an act of self-respect. It says, "I refuse to negotiate with my own potential." And that decision, even if it's quiet, sends a powerful signal to your nervous system. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to move like someone who expects more from life. There's also a deeper layer to this. Environments shape identity. The longer you stay somewhere that stunts you, the more you start confusing adaptation with authenticity. You tell yourself this is just who you are now, less driven, less focused, less alive. But that's not truth, that's conditioning. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Walking away often means being misunderstood. It means letting others project their fears onto your decision. It means tolerating temporary uncertainty instead of permanent smallness. That trade is worth it every time. When you walk away, something interesting happens. The mental noise fades. The constant low-grade tension dissolves. You suddenly have access to your own thoughts again. Clarity returns, not because everything is solved, but because the static is gone. You start hearing your intuition without interference. You remember what it feels like to want more without immediately talking yourself out of it. This is not escape. This is alignment. You are removing yourself from a system that benefits from your stagnation so you can place yourself in one that rewards your effort. Now, this isn't about chasing perfection or endlessly hopping from place to place. It's about recognizing patterns. If an environment consistently drains you, narrows you, and keeps you operating below your capacity, that's information. Ignoring it doesn't make you loyal, it makes you stuck. The Stoics emphasized agency. You may not control everything around you, but you always control your response. Walking away is a response, a powerful one. It's you saying, "I will not participate in my own diminishment." To turn this insight into action, you need practice. Start with a simple daily reflection. Ask yourself without judgment, where am I shrinking? Don't analyze it to death, just notice. Notice where your energy drops. Notice where your ambition goes quiet. Write it down. Awareness is the first cut through inertia. Next, perform a subtraction exercise. Instead of asking what you need to add to grow, ask what you need to remove. Which conversations, routines, or mental habits keep you tethered to an environment that no longer fits? Growth accelerates when excess is eliminated. Another powerful exercise is identity rehearsal. Each morning, spend a few minutes imagining yourself operating in an environment that demands your best. Not the details, the feeling, the posture, the internal dialogue. Then ask yourself one sharp question. Does my current environment pull this version of me out or suppress it? Be honest. Your body already knows the answer. Courage is simply acting on what you already feel. You can also practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believed in training the mind through intentional challenge. By choosing small acts of discomfort, You strengthen your ability to walk away from larger stagnations. Do something daily that reinforces your autonomy. Say no when you usually comply. Step back when you usually overextend. This builds the internal muscle required to leave environments that rely on your compliance to keep you small. Walking away doesn't mean you're running from something. It means you're moving towards something, even if it's not fully defined yet. Growth rarely announces itself with certainty. It whispers, it nudges, it unsettles. Trust that. Trust that your restlessness is not a flaw but a signal. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Choosing your environment is choosing your mind. In the end, the ultimate victory is not proving anything to anyone else. It's protecting the part of you that wants to expand. It's refusing to let familiar limits become permanent ones. When you walk away from what stunts you, you create space for what strengthens you. And that space, once opened, changes everything. Number 10, leaving behind versions of yourself that no longer serve you. Walking away isn't always about other people. Sometimes the real victory is quieter and harder to explain. It's the moment you realize that the version of you that got you here can't take you where you want to go. And instead of dragging that version along out of habit, nostalgia, or fear, you let it fall behind. You don't argue with it. You don't dramatize it. You simply stop feeding it. This is one of the cleanest forms of power you'll ever experience because nothing external has to change for it to work. You change, and the world rearranges itself around that decision. There are versions of you that were built for survival, not growth. Versions that learn to please, to prove, to cling, to overthink, to chase validation, to react instead of choose. Those versions did their job. They kept you going when you didn't know any better. But staying loyal to an outdated self is not integrity, it's stagnation. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That estimate often comes from an old identity, an old story, an old reflex. Walking away from that version of yourself is how you reclaim authorship over your inner life. This kind of walking away doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No announcements, no speeches. It looks like silence where there used to be explanation, discipline where there used to be impulse, space where there used to be noise. You stop arguing with thoughts that no longer deserve your attention. You stop negotiating with habits you already know the outcome of. You stop asking for permission to evolve. And that's when something shifts. The version of you that needed approval starts to starve. The version of you that thrives on self-respect finally gets room to breathe. You don't abandon these old versions with anger. You don't shame them. That keeps them alive. You let them dissolve through non-participation. Epictetus put it plainly, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not what you feel like doing, not what your old patterns urge you to do, what you have to do. Every time you act in alignment with who you're becoming, you quietly walk away from who you used to be. No conflict required. There's a strange fear that comes with this process. A fear that without your old reactions, your old defenses, your old cravings, you'll become empty or boring or lost. But what actually happens is clarity. When you stop carrying outdated identities, your energy returns. You realize how much effort you were spending maintaining a version of yourself that was never meant to be permanent. Seneca warned against this when he said, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks." You could replace neighbor with former self, and the wisdom still holds. Obsessing over who you were keeps you from fully inhabiting who you are now. Walking away from an old self requires daily, almost mundane courage. It's choosing not to indulge a familiar thought even though it feels comfortable. It's refusing to replay an internal script that once protected you but now limits you. It's noticing the urge to act small, reactive, or defensive, and letting it pass without obeying it. This is where victory lives. Not in domination, not in revenge, not in proving anything to anyone but in self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius called this the ruling faculty, the part of you that decides how you respond. When that part is in charge, the old versions lose their grip. You don't need to wait for some external milestone to justify this shift. You don't need closure. You don't need certainty. Growth rarely feels certain. It feels like standing in open space without the familiar armor you used to wear. But that armor was heavy, and you don't need it anymore. The moment you stop identifying with every thought, every urge, every emotional spike, you create distance. And in that distance, you gain freedom. To make this practical, start with a simple daily exercise. Each morning, ask yourself one question and write the answer down. What version of me am I choosing to feed today? Don't overthink it. Let the answer be raw. Then commit to one small action that aligns with the version you respect more. One action is enough. Consistency matters more than intensity. Another exercise, practice deliberate non-reaction. When a familiar internal impulse arises, the urge to explain, to prove, to seek reassurance, pause. Count 5 slow breaths. Say to yourself, I don't need to be this version anymore. Then choose the quieter response, or no response at all. This is not suppression, this is selection. You are choosing which self gets airtime. At night, reflect without judgment. Ask, where did I act from my old identity today? Notice it. Don't punish yourself. Then ask, where did I act from my higher standard? Even if it was once, especially if it was once. That's the direction. Seneca reminded us, while we wait for life, life passes. Don't wait to become someone else. Practice being them now in small, repeatable ways. Walking away from old versions of yourself will feel lonely at times because those versions were familiar companions. But solitude is not emptiness, it's space. And in that space, you discover that you are not your past reactions, your past fears, or your past limitations. You are the one who chooses, again and again. That choice is the ultimate victory. Before you click away, remember this. Walking away isn't weakness, it's mastery. Every time you refuse to beg for respect, argue with chaos, or chase what drains you, you win something far more valuable than approval, your peace. The strongest move isn't always fighting back. Sometimes it's knowing you don't have to fight at all. If this video gave you clarity, let it be a reminder the next time your ego wants revenge and your mind wants silence. Choose dignity. Choose control. Choose yourself. If you found value here, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay grounded, stay disciplined, and keep walking away from what no longer deserves you.